Okay, welcome to another week of Dungeons & Dungeons. We survived.
Or did
All
we?
Did we?
Let's find out.
Oh, actually, Hunter and Luke talk.
Hello.
Good. It's fine.
And then we'll just move these over here. Just to make sure the audio doesn't get too picked up by the
I think
mics.
we need more cameras.
No. So, I should have got you full screen, but I already cut you that way. Nope. So you don't get them full screen this week. I apologize. But they do. Previously, the Fanlin crew, or what is left of the Fanlin crew, continued their longest stay alive. Teleporting from Strongclaw, the stronghold of the lizard folk, the group arrived inside Nature's Hold. They battled their way into the escape passage built by the previous King of the North. Regrouping, Brian asked the group if they were willing to fight with her, giving them options to leave to save their own lives from this hopeless battle. Together, the group decided to aid Brian against the Cobalt Alliance. Some members of the team hoped to regroup, but Brian explained how dire the circumstances were. There was nowhere left to regroup at this time, nowhere left to turn. If they fall, the war is over. The Cobalt Alliance wins, and the North is conquered, along with most of Atul. Frustrated at those odds, the group looked for a way to drive the Cobalt forces back. With a smile, Brian explained the Cobalt Alliance took their animal allies as prisoners, dumping them into a pit inside their camp set up outside the castle, keeping them hostage to be used later after their certain victory. If they could free the animals, it would cause enough chaos to start dismantling the Cobalt operations. Exiting the escape chambers that doubled as storage for the King of the North, the group snuck their way onto the battlefield, moving through lost ruins moving through a lost ruins covered with enemies. They managed not to provoke any of their attention, or shot those who did. Crossing the trench into enemy barracks, the group freed the animals through the resourcefulness of using a dispel magic and ground shifting magic by Ulazal. All hell broke loose when the animals were set free. Arrows rained down on the escaping animals, hitting the group. Magical attacks were flung in exchanges as the group split up. Bologna and Ralia cleared the base camp with extreme force. This gathered the attention of the necromancer they once fought in the forests of Neverwinter.
Neither of them did.
Belfina and Ulazal engaged the necromancer before teleporting away after a vampire lord got involved with the conflict.
Bitch.
Down on the battlefield,
They're both cowards.
Brian, Mosnell, and Eri raced to their objectives, looking to destroy the Cobalt resources and free the captured First Army of the North. Through brutal combat, Brian was able to free her First Army just as Mosnell defeated a powerful Ouroboros Goliath. He was protecting the Cobalt resources. As the army flooded the field, Eri was able to light a siege tower ablaze. Exhaustion pressed on our characters as the endless amounts of Cobalt soldiers pushed for victory. Emerging from the depths of the castle was the Valkyrie. The group had lost before bringing forth... Emerging from the depths of the castle was the Valkyrie the group had lost inside the castle. She brought forth 2,000 more Cobalt soldiers for the Alliance. Pushing Brian into absolute desperation, she asked Ulazal to help her free something that would change the outcome of the battle. Traveling back underground, Brian confronted a monster locked in a monstrosity of a cell. Using more of the mending mud, Brian tried to communicate with the monstrosity, talking in a language unrecognizable to Ulazal. Cursing, Brian tried to bargain for aid for the beast in exchange for its freedom. Unsure if her pleas fell on deaf ears, she took the risk and freed the creature. Emerging onto the battlefield was the force of nature known as the Tarrasque. Destroying the ground everyone battled on, the Tarrasque created earthquakes to separate the land they stood on, followed by sonic blasts decimating the walls of Nature's Hold. The Valkyrie of the Ouroboros engaged the Tarrasque, fueled by the fires of war, only to be utterly annihilated by another one of its sonic attacks. Our group looked on in shock, terror, disbelief, seeing this monstrosity enter the battlefield after so much had already passed. The exhaustion was overwhelming. There appeared to be no hope to defeat such a creature with the power to obliterate the world around them. As the Tarrasque moved towards the castle, Brian arrived from the escaped area. Ulazal fleeing, Brian approached the Tarrasque. She called upon the gods who watched over her for aid. Give me strength to save this innocence. Through my veins course the spirit of protection of what is good in this world. A call upon the spirits again to fight against the forces of domination. Today is not death, but the start of a future. Her sword glowing, Brian slashed through the Tarrasque at such speed a thunderclap boomed. From the sky, a green light of the Force poured out, slamming the beast with enough force to put it to sleep. With one last bellow, the Tarrasque began its journey tunneling below the world to rest, free of its holding in the north. Brian staggered to stand, but fell forward as a battered, bloody, topless Mosnell reaches out to grab her. Wrapping her arms around his shoulders, Brian stutters to say, Are they safe? Did I save who was left? Before Mosnell can answer, a Cobalt soldier approaches, taking a swing with his greatsword. One-handed while holding Brian upright, Mosnell parries the blow, following up with a crushing slash of his axe and a bellowing roar. Returning his attention to Brian, he finds her unresponsive with shallow breaths. Looking back up, a group of Cobalt survivors approach them in tattered armor. Knocking their arrows and their crossbows, they line up to execute the two Northerners. When the thunder of direwolf cavalry from the First Army barrels into them. One arrow manages to be shot toward the two, but is deflected out of the air by a drow male riding on the back of a direwolf. Slashing the arrow out of the air with his sickle, he rides to the soldier, cleaving off his head. Drow soldiers rush to help the two before Mosnell falls unconscious. He sees Aerie pushing past the drow, rushing to his side. Meanwhile, Bellona and Ralia are mopping up the retreating Cobalt forces. The First Army reaches them within minutes, cutting through the injured enemy forces' retreat. Ulazal and Belfina reconnect with Bellona and Ralia to take a breather. They are approached by a male drow on a direwolf holding a sickle.
Oh. Sickle.
So tired.
As the drow approaches the four of you, he gives you this look of aggression at first, but then you see a little flicker in his eyes and a little recognition that all of you are allies of the North. Who are you?
Allies of Brian?
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Leader of the First Army. Right now, we're mopping up the Cobalt forces, and we'd like to extend a welcome to helping aid our king. It seems all of you turned the tide of the battlefield from what we could see.
Yes, I believe I deserve some kind of medal. I mean, I've killed at least 2,000. So.
We're not one for too much recognition. But rewards and arrangements can be made. As he's talking to you awfully casually, you just see this cavalry cutting through in the background. You're like still on that hill that was overlooking, and you just see these Cobalt forces just being mowed down like Battle of Bastards as the Erie is cutting through. That's like what's happening right now on the battlefield. Well, I think as he turns over and another group of soldiers come over, escort these within the walls and give them a night's stay. They've earned their rest and our gratitude. We'll talk more in the morning.
Is everybody with us? We're missing two, right?
Allies?
Yes,
Yeah.
two of our allies, a big red-bearded man and another sneaky-looking fellow.
Shifty.
There are
What
a
else?
lot of sneaky, shifty-looking people we've been dealing
Is
with.
it what else?
Wood Elf. There was a strange-looking, glowing individual
Oh,
rushing
yeah.
toward.
Yep,
All
that's
right.
him. Yep.
That sounds about right. We figured it.
Yep.
That sounds about right. Well,
If you could take us to them first, I would like to tend to their wounds.
I believe my soldiers are already bringing them back in. They were with our king.
Appreciate it.
Very well.
Thank you. Let's go then.
And he points to, you see two on top of their animals. These don't have dire wolves. These are on bears instead. And they're not gigantic bears, but they're just... as the two of them are onlooking and giving this look of, let us fight, let us continue this, he turns to them, take them inside again, and help them to get some good earned rest. And report back to me. We'll need to fortify to make sure there's no more incursions tonight. And so this group takes you through this battlefield with this smell of just... It's no longer blood and gore. The Tarask almost like brought that fresh smell of the earth out of when like the rain happens afterwards, but there's a little bit of like a heat to it. So it's just like this warm, like, you know when pavement gets really warm after it rains? You have a little feeling of that. Like where he split the ground is all, as you're walking back, you can see glass. Like he turned the dirt into glass where he split the earth. Multiple places. As the walls of nature's hold on both sides, the gates still stand, but their walls have fallen, and there's still a majority of the walls all on the sides, but buildings have been crashed, and just bodies are still everywhere. You can't walk many steps without stepping on bodies and having to deal with all that's going on. The Drow forces are starting to mop things up, and they're directing you inside the city. As you all are trailing inside this city, dealing with your exhaustion, you start to take in some of your surroundings. You see this beautiful, intricate work of elven craftsmanship, and you also see a mix of dwarvish with it, but there is clearly another force that helped them to build such great heights. You've seen elf and dwarf architecture, but there's this touch of something else that clearly aided to make such a incredible castle. It was meant for the gods. It was meant to make a statement. There are multiple levels, and they are branching off in multiple directions. So you do see many bridges collapse through that no longer connect to towers that were built up multiple ways. Almost all of them have canopies that are open for trees and all sorts of forestry in there, so you can see overgrowth on them and all sorts of leaves, but some of them are burnt, charred, cut down. Entire tops of what would like double as greenhouses are knocked over or utterly destroyed. In the back, there's still smoke coming out from where you guys originally ran away from in the Everautumn Forest. The stairs, as they lead you through, are just bodies of both drow soldiers and cobalt wolf soldiers, and just, you can see currently many of the drow are just taking bodies and chucking them over the ledges, and you just see cobalt soldiers dropping in droves as they're just hitting the bottom, as they're just trying to clear the alleyways to get through onto this area. It's probably 350 feet to 400 feet high. As you start to take measures of how far it is, when you get a chance to look down, it's almost dizzying. It would be skyscraper height where you guys originally started in the main throne, but they don't take you towards that place, which is at the center of the stronghold. Instead, they start working you towards the temporary barracks that they made inside the town. You do take notice there's no women, there's no children, and no casual townsfolk. There are tons of women drow and male drow soldiers, but there are no civilians, is what I meant. I was in the trope of women and children, go away. No, not in this matriarchal society. You guys get ushered through the halls, and they're all this... it's not marble, it's like white sandstone is what a majority of this castle is made out of.
Well, like lime?
And, what's that?
Kind of like lime?
Sure. Yeah. Limestone and sandstone. It has that really white coloring to it. And it's not marble, though. It's not like you've seen in Timora's temple, for those who've survived. As you're going through, these halls, you do end up getting rooms as it starts to get too cluttered, and one of the soldiers gets off his bear, the other one covers your 6 as it's continuing to shuffle people off the sides. He turns to you. Normally we wouldn't have enough room for the lot of you, but go figure, we've had a lot of vacancies, if you couldn't tell. So you do have the pick of this hallway here. There should be plenty of rooms for each of you if you want. We would appreciate if you could try and consolidate to not have 6 separate rooms, but maybe split between a couple, depending on what our soldiers have to go through tonight, as we are going to be working through the night to consolidate everything. We'll sort all this out as soon as we can in the morning, but I think you've all earned your rest. I'll go rendezvous with my groups and come back to you to see if your friends have been delivered here yet. And as he says that, Aerie steps out of one of the rooms. As you watched as Brian and Mosna were brought up here but then taken away to another area to be healed, you were shown your rooms by different drow commanders, soldiers, not commanders. And they brought you into this area on a very similar path just ahead of the rest of the group. Oh, there seems to be one of your comrades now. He is a beacon of light.
Aerie turns and kind of walks towards them and is just like, hey.
Yo,
Good to see everyone's still alive. Well,
I haven't seen Mazna.
did you see him?
Can I do something weird?
Oh, fuck.
Always. Always.
Can I ask you guys to make an insight check?
Okay. 14?
24.
23.
So it wasn't gonna be a hard DC. You look at Aerie and something seems very off. Ulazal, it initially reminisces you of when Aerie became possessed before, but it's different. At this point, it's not that there's another entity in his consciousness. It's almost like Aerie, when all of you look into his eyes, it's almost like they're dead. Like Aerie himself it's almost like he's unconscious at this point, and his body is just moving from the adrenaline of this battle. Like his body is just moving automatically at this point.
Are you feeling okay? I mean, aside
He just
from
stares.
The obvious. I'm gonna cure wounds.
Go for it. I'll leave you all to your privacy. As the drow soldier walks away, mounting his bear, and the two of them start going off into the city.
So that is 17 points of healing to you.
Ooh.
That's pretty good.
Almost.
Aerie just kind of initially just like collapses asleep for a few seconds, and then you see he kind of like shakes awake, and he's just like, what just happened?
That's
I remember a beast coming out of the ground, and then now
We won.
what happened?
We won.
We won.
as much as you can call this winning.
We're alive. That's a win.
That is a win for us. You say you don't remember anything, but you were just awake. It reminds me of that time that you put everybody else to sleep.
That needs explanation.
Hopefully with some of the things that we can find shortly after leaving here, I might be able to shed some more light on that.
I don't know. I don't know if it's the same, actually. When the beast came out, it roared, and it was like I was overcome by a sense of fear, and it was like something broke inside me, and that's when the blackness hit. This isn't this. Before it was like nothing. It was a quicker transition. This I was a little bit more aware this time. I don't know. I think the stress of this battle, who we were fighting. I mean, I've heard about it for people moving on their own from pure adrenaline.
I hope, for your sake, that is the case. I fear to think about what else it could be.
Where's Masnal?
That's a good question. Can we ask around to try and find him?
Sure. Right now, you're like left alone. Nobody even cares to really bother with you all right now because they're too busy scrambling to clean the city, try and put up barriers, do what they want. They're just sort of left you to your own right now because it's the clouds have gone away from this encounter. It's only like 6-7 p.m. at night.
Oh shit.
Because you guys started the day early. This battle happened at noon, and it was just
All day.
yeah.
Slobbering on.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Can I just look around in the other rooms, see if anyone is around?
Sure.
Which direction did the soldiers that brought us in?
Right back down the stairs. So there's like intricate stairs. If you know Magic the Gathering, the forest cards, like the lands, they look a lot like those. Actually, wait a minute. Do I have?
He's got one. He's got at least one forest card somewhere around
I
here.
think you've done this exact illustration before.
I have.
Okay.
Just I gotta get the old.
The old magic out.
Oh shit! Oh god! Oh no! I can see your secrets. That's not a secret. I just gotta
Hide your shame.
Fine then.
You can do it.
All right then. You keep your secrets.
Neat.
There it
That's
is.
really pretty.
Whoa,
I
look at
imagine
that.
it doesn't look that's pretty right now.
Some of it does though. Some of it was not untouched, but they didn't get to push all the way to the back end of it. That is a really good look
That
at what
looks
nature's
awesome.
hold is. Also, this is Legend Keeper. This is an awesome, awesome thing that if anybody wants to support, you should on Patreon. The guy is terrific, and I can't wait till he finishes the project and keeps going, keeps updating it. It's awesome just for that. Because then it's like, oh, look at that place on a map. Okay, Reed. And then I click that, and you're like, I now am immersed.
I'm so immersed right now.
I get
I
it.
see it.
I can taste the immersion.
So that is what you're looking at, and it's like a lot of those type of areas. And on the bottom, it's all very elven structured and elven looking, but there is a lot of that dwarven
Dude, it's like
architecture.
fuck. It's like
You're thinking of the one from Dark Souls?
no, I'm thinking about I was gonna say Honor Orlando.
Yeah.
I have not played that. He should know that name if he's Dark Souled.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
nods. He knows.
He said yes.
I know.
Don't insult me.
Yes.
Yes, that makes sense.
All right. All right.
So,
Or what's that one city from Lord of the Rings?
Oh, the last one where the guy like jumps off at the end.
Yeah, fucking.
Not
Minas
quite that.
Tirith.
Was it?
Minas
Minas
Tirith?
Tirith.
Yeah, it's not quite Minas Tirith.
Okay.
It's not. That's a little too much. The styling is different, and it doesn't have as much of the city like that. There's loaded with
Right.
other houses and the people around it. This has a lot more spacing to it, and like just bigger areas, like a lot of round shapes to it too. That's where all the houses are. They're not very big on like here's the slums. Like there's no
Here's the
slums. Nature's Soul doesn't have that.
There's more trees too.
A lot more. So give me an investigation check as you're looking around for people.
I'm gonna try to track
I'm gonna
down the
join
dudes
him.
that went downstairs.
Sure. 12.
Natural 20 for 20.
Nice. You start peering in some of the other rooms and knocking on the doors and looking back and forth, and just empty after empty. You can see stuff pillaged or taken. Some stuff is untouched. And then when the last rooms you open up, you can just see a couple birds where there's the back wall has been blown out a little bit in the top right, and they're just sitting there watching over the room right now.
What kind of birds are they?
Probably like sparrows.
Ooh.
Just
They're just birds.
Yeah, it's not like
Close the
glowing.
door so I don't peek in the hallway.
Yeah, sure. You and Bologna go down the stairs, and you no longer see those two soldiers that escorted you there. They've already gone far. You can actually see them in the distance with that roll. The bearers are actually climbing down sides of stuff instead of going down the long stairs. There's actually all these handholds for bears to go down quicker throughout the place. With that roll too, you notice there's like chutes that go around this place to send all sorts of equipment and supplies back and forth at a steady pace. But next to it, you rolled a what? 26?
22.
22? Give me an intelligence check.
500.
4.
And there's just a lot of these chutes going around, and it's really, really cool.
Nice.
Stabs me like.
But as you see all that, and you and Bellona look down, you do come up on some of these drow soldiers that aren't in armor. These have their hoods up, and they are in their leather armor, and they're pretty untouched at this point. It looks like they didn't see much war.
Hey, those guys look like your type.
Hey there.
Why, hello. How may I help you?
Where could we find the infirmary where the injured are?
Looks over to the other drow. You can tell one's male, one's female. The female has a lot of piercings, earrings all the way through, while the male has a pretty long face to him. Looking at one another, the infirmary was destroyed. That was one of the first places they attacked, was our sick and injured. As he points toward just this nothing, just flattened piece of what might have been architecture. But our second rallying point, and he points over toward another area, would be down there. Are you looking for your injured?
We have a friend who was fighting alongside Brine,
Okay.
so I imagine he would be fairly near to her.
I think that would be your best bet right now. Careful where you step. If you fall on one of these pieces of filth, you'll fall a long ways. You might catch a couple of their swords and daggers, so be careful with your step. As you see one of the drow woman, and she's lifting up another one on the soldier, and as they hit the ground, a lot of the armor just cracking and opening up, and you can see some other drow down there like watching this happen as like stuff is cracking. They're looting them. They're taking armor off them. There's carts just being filled with armor and all sorts of just broken crappy stuff. There are piles of just swords they're throwing into all this type of stuff. You can just see they're lining all sorts of these resources right now, probably trying to restock and recuperate for whatever it's worth.
Bologna, let's go grab the group and make our way towards there.
Sounds good.
The two of you carefully step between the bodies of many kobolds, but the drow you can see are being tended to as well. Many of those bodies are being taken to another side and laid down and properly, stiff, and they're putting them all in order on an opposite side of the area. So the way your guys are curving down and they're pointing towards you, it would be like the front of the castle would be as you're walking down a little bit to your right on these stairs, and then you can see the infirmary is like down under a bunch of other buildings, some broken, some battered, some fairly untouched, and it's one of those things that you can just glance through while there's all these beams supporting these things where the infirmary is, and then behind that is where you see many of the bodies being laid out and recovered. Glancing towards the battlefield and the open walls, you can start seeing the first army, some of them pulling back. You can see perimeters being set, and you see people just sorting through the carnage on the battlefield, trying to figure out what to do outside there. The individual on the direwolf and the sickle the direwolf's so large that you can see him from this distance, barely, not clearly, but you can see him still touting off orders and surveying the battlefield as you go down those stairs. getting closer, you're able to see more of the other types of people that live here. It's not just drow for this kingdom, and you see many animals helping as well. You can see foxes, wolves, not so much the
Fox
deer.
people, just the actual animals.
No people. These are just the animals that are helping move bodies and are sitting by. Some of them are just sitting down next to the long rows of bodies. You can see a whole bunch of elk, just all these stags standing over all these bodies as you go down there. This place is filled with this melancholy for what happened, but it seems like this protection of animals that are overlooking nature's hold. As you guys pull up into this glass building, it's absolutely gorgeous back there. It looks like a glass palace, and it's like round, and it's got multiple, like almost bubble-ish as it goes in architecture, with green tops and all the trees inside it. And it's a much darker green than the rest that are more, like one's more forest dark green. This is lighter than the forest green, but not as light as a light green would say. It sticks out in the palette. As you walk inside there, you can see drow soldiers, as soon as you walk in, try and halt and try and figure out what's going on. Some of the races, I forgot because I got caught up with the animals that you see. You do see some tieflings. You see some furbolgs. You see some kenku. And let me check one more on my cheat sheet here. Gnomes. You see a couple gnomes
Nice.
coming through there. So, the two of you enter inside the armory where you're stopped by two soldiers in full-plated armor. As they look at you.
We grabbed the group before we went down.
Is the whole? So, are you following? So, Ulazal, then all of you have been doing that. Ralia, looking for her money. Just seeing all these bodies and calculating things as, oh no. It starts with an M. Morta
Yeah.
is on your shoulder, and she's like whispering in your ear, just looking over, just like, we could take some. We probably shouldn't. It might anger them, but there are some we could probably take. I'm starting to get the odds in your favor. She seems overtly positive, as the both of you seem to have delivered plenty of people to the Raven Queen today. But there is also the sense inside you that it's not, the Raven Queen doesn't desire endless murder, slaughter, and that type of stuff. She very much cares for this direction for you of the path of death and trying to understand that. And you seem to have even won a little bit of her favor in that fight, being able to see into the afterlife a little bit from what you saw in your death vision of all these souls being reaped. So it was more a learning point, and that's where the excitement comes from, not like you're a murder hobo. You can be if you want, but I'm just trying to thread the needle.
I'm trying to make you not murder.
As the group goes down there, you're stopped by the two guards right now who look exhausted and battle-ridden, but
Same.
everyone's covered in gore. Everyone's looking really rough. As they stop you, their plate armor, the elven plate armor for the drow, very much resembles that of the Mandalorians. So, but it's thinner. Like, you know how they got big helmets? Their stuff is very like fitted almost to their face type of deal. As they stop the two of you, the group of you, because you all want to fight them. What is your business here?
We're looking for the large man who is fighting alongside Brian.
No. Human?
Yes.
Yeah, he's
redhead.
Oh yes.
He's our companion. We just want to make sure he's safe.
Our clerics are taking care of him and Brian right now. Both were in critical condition.
Can we go see him?
It's a bit much back there. You might be interfering with all their clerical work at the moment. Could you wait? I could go back and check to see how long it might be.
Can we just have one of us stay with him then?
Sure. That's completely doable. Just having a group of bloody war-torn people probably won't be best for morale, and it's pretty hectic back there. But I respect your understanding.
Do you want me to go, or would you like to go?
I would like to go just to oversee the process, if you don't mind.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead and take him back. And as the other one looks at him, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, I'll take you. I didn't see any redhead. He's like, are you kidding me? You can see it just a shake as they walk back. The other one just stands with the two of you. Or with the rest of the group, he's just looking at all of you and nodding like, heck of a day.
You're telling us.
When they start walking away, I'm gonna whisper to Morta, like, jump on his shoulder, and I'm gonna have her jump on Ulazal's shoulder.
Okay. They could not care. You can tell they are very used to like animal companions in this area, so something like that isn't a red flag. As they're going in there, Ulazal, you see lines and lines of people. It's not as big as a warehouse. It's very claustrophobic, and there's very little space, but there's just bed rolls. You can see there's just cloth torn open. Anywhere they can get a slab, they have people there. It looks like there is only a handful of clerics running around trying to mend people, get them stable. People are missing limbs, they're wounded, their armor's still on them. Most people aren't bleeding out, per se, but they're doing their best, as there's a place in the back area as you're being like, there's lots of twists and turns, so you can see it. It's sort of like a cross itself, the building, but there's also more like an asterisk as well down the many halls they use. You can tell this seems to be a place of relax and reprieve. This would be an area that most people might consider a park, and that's what they're trying to get them. This is what they're using as the medical place right now. There's an entrance from the backside of it where soldiers are just being walked in, dragged in, carted in for their injuries, and they're being processed by a multitude of drow clerics. You can see as they're doing that, there is one way taller in a long robe. It is they're green and silvers is all the colors of Winter's Hold. You can see furry hands outstretched as it's far taller than everybody else, as it seems to be talking on and on with individuals that are just like, just take the body. But as the soldier gets you around a corner, it pushes back into a more private area, but you see the Sworn outside another like enclosed lockdown area where you assume Brian is, and Mosnell is there right now in stable condition with one cleric just on the side healing him at the moment, and she looks absolutely exhausted as she's trying to, a drow cleric, bring him up to more to heal his wounds, as he just has gashes everywhere from the axe attacks he sustained during the battle.
I will kneel down next to her and say, do you mind if I do that? We won't wait for a response. I'm just going to cure wounds.
Oh, sure. As she sees that, the soldier stands with you.
It's 18 points of healing.
Wonderful. As it quickens, you see her. Oh, thank you. I'll have a moment's rest for just a moment. Okay. And she gets up and she goes in to take care of some other people. She says, thank you. I believe she would say, force blessings upon you as she leaves, because clerics love their gods. Mosnell, give me a constitution roll.
Constitution?
Just a normal roll.
Don't blow it.
He blew it. Literally.
All right. A Constitution?
Yeah, not saving. Just
Yep. So that's an 18.
you wake up.
Hooray! So you didn't die after all.
I can't be killed.
You see the drow that escorted you, bodyguard here, just like Of course. This makes a lot of sense. I can see how we survived the day. Well, I'm glad we have immortals on our side. As a cleric walks by, no one's immortal. And she's like shoving him out of the way.
Looks like you did some work.
Yes, I had quite a long fight with some person who was bigger than me, which was strange.
I just want to say, Reed, I am already 15 minutes on my way to the front of the gate because I want to find that dude's body.
All right. As you left, the awkward conversation, do all of you leave? The guy, the bodyguard, just standing there, or are you all waiting outside for Ulazal? Like, so Ari left, so it leaves.
I sat down somewhere and I rolled my eyes back in my head and I'm looking through Morta's eyes.
Okay, so you're sort of, like Disney World, they have a lot of those like circular, the way they're curved into stone. There's tons of those with like forestry in them, and you're by one of those right now, cross-legged, just like sitting there, eyes closed, but no, not really. You're pretending you're sleeping, but you're not. Orhana's next to you. No, Belfina is next to you, and she's just
sleeping.
Yeah, sleeping on your shoulder right now, as the two of you are exhausted. What about you, Bologna?
Just checking out those animals.
Okay, so you walk towards the elk that are overlooking all the bodies right now. That's that. So then, back to you guys. I'll get back to Ari in time.
Yeah, so I was fighting this big fella.
Mm-hmm.
I bested him. I beat him.
Looks like you took a few good chunks out of you.
Lucky hits.
You notice his body is just riddled with many hits. Like 14 to be exact. On
Like,
top of
more than a
Orlif's,
human should survive.
on top of Orlif's gigantic scar that is burned into him it's darker. So like the red, as most scars heal, like you see my scar here?
Yeah.
But it's got like this even darker to it. It's a scar that didn't heal right.
Feels more sinister.
Yeah.
Like almost black,
Not black though.
but
It's
almost.
it's like a very sickly looking maroon.
It's like a gross
Yeah,
red
yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Like there's just dry blood permanently on there.
Sort of,
Ew.
yes. But it's not like
Oh yeah.
oh, it's way worse. Like I wasn't. Oh, it is. If you think it's bad, it's 4 times worse. It's way worse than you could have thought. Think about it. Oh, you're gross now. It's worse. All right. Okay.
Oh, well, maybe they weren't lucky, but nothing I couldn't handle.
Well, no, you didn't hear any of that. You were just seeing that. You didn't have to double back on that, just putting that out there.
No, I'm okay with that.
Okay, just making
Well,
sure.
regardless, the victory is yours for now, and I think you deserve some rest. Like, seriously, you need to sleep.
Mosnell falls back down for a moment.
I will... Is there any indication as to where Brian is?
She is a little further in front of you, but there is
A bunch of clerics, I would imagine.
there is some clerics behind there, but there's more her sworn. There are 3 of her sworn staying in front of like curtains that have just been put up, basically as dividers.
Can I go and talk to one of sworn?
You can try.
We'll try.
All right, you leave Ulazal as Morta stays. No, you have to leave your body. Sorry.
Astral projection.
As you leave Mosnell's side, you walk over towards a sworn with Morta still on your shoulder, looking around, taking things in, remarkably calm on you. You hardly even notice her, but you do know her presence is there. As you walk up to one of the sworn, they see you, recognize you from the fight earlier, and greetings, Ulazal.
What's her condition like?
This is, as they look to one another, something we're unfamiliar with. This is something we've only heard legends of when she does. Fighting injuries are no problem, but when she calls upon the gods, it's up to the gods.
Oh, shit.
This is beyond our understanding. But as the clerics tell us, she's strong, and we hear her say things in and out, so...
She's still alive.
Oh, there's no killing her. You can hear, like, in the back, just a muffle, like... And you can hear cleric, please, no. And as, like, you see a cleric just, like, almost shove, like, she's coming back. And you see one of the sworn, like, do you need help again? And she's like, always need help. She is so strong. As one of the sworn go back there, and there's just now two behind you as they look wide-eyed and, like, this total affectionate smile, like, that's okay.
That's incredible.
She is quite an incredible person.
Well, I will be needing rest with my group, and though I'm sure your clerics are doing an incredible job, if any of my services are necessary, just find me.
All right, tomorrow you have work. Lots of work.
Alright, I'm gonna
That's what you get.
go tell Masnal where we're going to be staying.
He wakes you up, and you can decide whether or not you want to stay here, but you now have the freedom to leave. You have enough hit points, you're awake and conscious and with it. But you're not ready to run a marathon.
Well, yeah.
You want to come with us, or do you want to stay here?
I'll go, but how is...
She's alive.
That's good. We need her to stay alive.
I'll explain to him the mysterious nature of her current condition as
Sure.
we walk back to rally with the group.
The
That
two of you
makes-
exchange that.
No sense at all.
It's a mysterious thing.
Oh, why are things so confusing?
As you pour through the bodies and you take in Ari, the world around you, you can see the devastation and loss, but there's almost something calming about the animals that are here, the quiet after the storm, and the fact that there's no civilian casualties around you. This was all military combatants, which is almost never the case. This never happens in war. It's clear that somehow the Drow and the people of the North were able to evacuate their civilians. And to you, that's morally encouraging. Your morality. It is
Morally.
It is morally,
Morally.
but yeah.
Morale? Is that-
Morale.
Wait, what are you-
I want
what are you
morale.
going for?
Morale. It's encouraging to his morale would be a better structure of the sentence.
Morale boosting.
Yes.
a
And
boon to his morale.
yes.
There you go.
All right, good job, guys.
You get towards the front gates that are wide open and the drawbridge is down, and you see and carts being pulled with injured by bears as they're coming through, and you allow them to pass, and you can see the commander as well finally pulling in toward the castle. As he speeds by you on his direwolf, he seems to be going for a higher position up the walls as you watch this direwolf just like jump from broken thing to broken thing to try and get on top of the gate that overlooks the battlefield. Getting outside, there's just the work of the First Army trying to sort through everything. You can make an investigation check to try and find this Goliath.
Under all the bodies.
11.
As you start going through these bodies around the place, you do know, like, I was near here, we fought near here, but the siege tower you set on fire has completely collapsed and burned all in the area where the fight was going on. So it's making it very difficult for you to find anything, as a lot of the bodies are now charred as well inside that area.
I'm just gonna spend extra time and just look for an oversized body. It's
Okay.
an oversized half-giant body.
Okay, you can do that. As you approach the Elks, what would you like to do?
there any other? I'm pulling shit now. Are there any other animals nearby besides these elk, or is it just elk?
In this, over the bodies are elk and some fawn. Now that you can see around the corner, just chilling out in here. On the wall, there's all sorts of different breeds of birds lined up there, overlooking all these bodies as well. The animals helping bring some in are some occasional wolf. So you see in their teeth some of the smaller drow bodies and some dwarven bodies, some gnome bodies are being brought over into these piles. And there are people taking off their armors and taking off any of the tools that they need of war, but still keeping their clothing and anything on them. If their clothing's torn, they're repairing the clothing or using spare clothing, trying to at least dress the bodies for some sort of burial. And there are some clerics out here doing that work. Actually, just one would be doing that work. The rest are needed inside.
Is the cleric doing the one that's like undressing these people?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just inquire about this process then. I'm just curious.
Sure. As you approach this cleric, you can see it's a drow male that has intricate tattoos, but they're white, so it highlights against the skin, and it's all these brilliant scripts on him, and they even go around his eyes and stuff. And you see it sort of forms the branches of like a forest all around him. As he's right now like taking off the pants of one individual and taking the armor plates off because it's all torn in the middle and some of the bits are showing, and he's putting on some ceremonial, like he just has a small cart. It's not a lot, but it just pretty typical dressings for the dead. So you approach this individual.
Hi, how's it going?
Oh, hello there. Forest blessings upon you.
Thank you. Do the animals around here normally help with this kind of thing?
As he looks around, normally some do, but they seem to be out here in larger numbers. I feel as though the forest is responding to our cries of help. It always seems to be watching over us in the most mysterious of ways.
Funny how the forces around us work like that. Do you need help with anything?
Of course, I could use plenty of help. I could, he points to some people, if you could help take off some of their armors, that would help speed up the process.
Sure thing. Is this some sort of spiritual meaning of deeper significance? As I'm like undressing.
Yeah. The only significance the Force really takes is that beautiful cycle of life. We die to fertilize the ground and become one with nature again. So all it is more respect for those we love. It's something that we know we'll see them again. It's an endless cycle in many different forms. It's not necessarily a goodbye forever. Maybe goodbye as we knew them, but a future. But yes, if they're giving you a tough time, as he's like taking something off one, he just rips one and throws it back. It's okay. They won't mind. You can be a little stern with them, but as long as you trust them. As long as we get them going on their way to the next world.
All right. This forest of yours.
Yes.
This...
You're talking as you are, both of you are continuing to do
course.
this work, and you're helping him exponentially with the speed of this.
Does it have a name, or do you just call it the forest? Is it some greater being?
This, as far as we know, it's just the spirit of the forest, and it works its will in many different shapes and forms. Brian tells us, he would say king. The king tells us it appears to her in the form of a great wolf. She calls it Wolfie. That's tough. That's tough.
Ooh.
That's our king for you. She's always a smile on her face, no matter the circumstances. Always looking out for us.
Admirable person.
She is the greatest.
Probably the greatest person I ever met.
The greatest person I ever met, that's for sure. But I don't get out much, so I mean, I normally deal with dead all day long. It's kind of... what's your name?
Bellona.
Oh, Bellona. It's so wonderful to meet your acquaintance. I am Aziki.
Aziki. Pleasure.
Nice to meet you. Where do you hail from? You seem from a distant place.
That's accurate. That's accurate. I'm from, where am I from?
Jalaza. And then you're from a
I'm
town
just
in
trying to remember the
Jalaza.
town.
I have a map.
No, wait, I'll read my backstory.
He could do that.
It's a race.
We'll
Oh,
see.
man,
We'll see which
if
map.
only that were a thing.
It might not be in here. I might not put it in.
It's alright. Let's see how
Hey.
fast.
I'm, have you heard of Clovis?
Yes. Epma. Epma. A-P-A-M-A. Isn't that the town right next to Clovis we
A-P-A-M-A.
talked about?
Palma.
Yeah. Is that? Do you remember that? That seems like to me from my.
In my backstory, it just says north of Clovis. So.
Oh, that is very north of Clovis.
yeah, like, it's
That is closest case. So yes.
a small little town north of Clovis. It's called Apollo.
Oh, I don't know the exact, but I am very familiar with the location of Clovis. So that makes a lot of sense. That's a far away. It's in so much trouble these past 5 years. That's something. Were you seeking asylum from the war?
No, I just kind of followed my path here.
That's how our lives are. I wish more people would follow their paths. The little things in life just take you down from seeing your journey.
I'm assuming we're pretty much done in this area.
Yeah, for what you're doing,
Okay.
sure.
And you said there's birds chilling?
Yeah, so he thanks you for your work. It's wonderful. Wonderful to have met you, Bologna. Thank you for the help.
And there's birds.
Yeah,
Are
just
there any birds of prey?
not in this area, no.
Alright, can I track down where some of these animals
You were
are?
going to seek out birds of prey.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Or just some sort of predatory animal.
Okay. Make a perception check.
Alright. Like the ones that are helping.
Yeah.
22.
Damn.
15.
Well, yeah, and in this area, you're not seeing any birds of prey, but as you start walking about near Ralia and Delphina, you can see by Ralia as her eyes are closed and both of them are sleeping, behind them have a flock of about 15 or so ravens are just sitting behind them. Not birds of prey, but you do notice that because it's very hard to miss as there's just all these ravens just sitting
out.
behind her right now.
Piece that together.
Walking past that, you can see, I would say, you see falcons and hawks taking all sorts of daggers and just dropping them in piles. They're like flying and there's just a pile of daggers being formed. And some other stuff, like buckets, are going into another area. They're just helping with supplies. And they're like on this chain every 5-10 seconds, then a minute. And it's a pace that they're going out and coming back in. I'm gonna shoot it.
No, I'm not going to do that. Definitely not.
Mazda and Ulazal, you walk out of the place to see Belfina and Ralia and a lot of ravens behind there. Ralia, as Morta flies over to Ralia, probably as soon as she gets back to you, are you done?
Right. Once I see myself
Yes.
through Morta, I'll drop it.
I figured as much. So Ralia just sort of opens her eyes, pretending like she was sleeping and waking up, and comes over onto her shoulder as all the other ravens fly off as soon as that happens. And Aerie, you're still on the battlefield going through charred bodies. Give me an investigation check. So you four together, what are you doing with the hawks, falcons?
I'm gonna take out some like beef jerky
Sure.
from one of the
Ugh.
rations.
Give
A
me an
little
animal
bit better
handling
this
check.
time. 17.
17. It's getting still difficult to sort through these bodies. I mean, it's a battlefield. You found one of the knoll bodies. I'll give you that much. So you knew you were close, but there's just so much rubble here. The earthquake split the ground. There's all these bodies of just various soldiers and stuff. You're trying your best. You're getting cuts all over your hands and your knees. Minor ones, nothing to take a hit point of damage, but it's getting exhausting and tiresome. It's at the moment, especially as the sun is sort of setting. It's on its way. It's on its descent now.
Has anybody been? Has it seemed like anybody has been clearing this area?
The one closest to the castle, not so much. You actually can see the wall, like where the walls were, like they're down, and it's all just cracked from the earthquake. But just past that, where the walls continue, you're just seeing, think Game of Thrones, but not as much as the horde of zombies, but just Cobalt soldiers lined up, just being tossed over the sides of those walls. Probably, I'd say 3 or 4 feet high of just bodies, all pushed over. It seems like they're working their way out in.
Okay. Like, wait.
From the campsites you guys came out, all the way back into the castle.
Okay,
clearing the
okay. So
battlefield.
they haven't really hit this area.
No, they're really concerned with the perimeter right now and making sure it's secure, especially since their front walls have caved in. They want to make sure if they send some sort of strike force in to do a killing blow, they can't. That seems apparently obvious to you.
Okay. I mean, I'm pretty dedicated at this point.
Oh my god, you're still going? The DC keeps going up, my guy. The more filled rolls, the higher the DC. All right.
I hope for a natural 20.
I'm gonna try and reconvene with the
Yeah, I
group
guess
at
I
this
didn't
point.
leave either.
What's that?
Yeah, I rolled a 17 on my animal handling. But also, did I see him leave?
Ari, no. You didn't get a chance to see. He was just like, I'm walking away, but you weren't really
Right.
engaged with that at the moment. So Ari starts his return, and as he returns, he sees you after you've talked with the cleric, flagging down one of the animals. They're not ignoring. Some of them are ignoring you, and you're kind of like. And then finally one just like, whoa! Food! You can see like the other hawks and falcons like, used to this. Always slacking. You're like, you can just tell there's a dynamic.
One.
Yeah, the slacker one was like, give me that shit.
It's like the hyenas from like.
Yeah, but not someone not like not like that. He's just more like, oh yeah, anything but this. So you're able to start feeding him some of your beef jerky. As Ari, still with glowing eyes and glowing tattoos, glowing scars are all throughout his body, as he has bits and pieces torn, but mostly he's been able to cover up.
All right. Well, I'm gonna continue trying to befriend this bird.
Okay. Well, it's just eating. So I guess
More birds.
you two meet, and then you walk back as you take the bird away, as it's still chewing on all the meat. You guys reconvene, and I guess you all walk up the stairs back to your place of rest. You're not going to bed yet.
Do I catch Maz now before they get there?
Yeah, you guys are now meeting. Like, they're pretty far up the stairs, as they're like, they'll catch up with you, but like, you can now see them like 50 feet ahead of you guys as you're catching up.
I'm gonna yell out to Maz now.
Huh?
Come.
Okay.
He turns around. Yep. You guys meet in the middle of the stairs right now. It seems relatively clear. Since you were last here, they've cleared out quite a lot of the bodies, which is nice, but they're still way up there.
Now.
Yes.
I need your help. I need your help.
Okay. With what?
That Goliath. We need to find him. He had some sweet shit.
Jesus Christ.
Mazno, I need this for you. You need the spoils.
He did have a nice axe.
Oh no! Oh no!
How about we do one quick look and then we go rest?
Get the barbarian to help investigate.
Are you all going to find the Goliath?
I only grab Mazno, and
Okay.
anybody else can follow us if they want.
Everyone's within earshot. Everyone's basically stopped looking at each other like, what are we doing?
I mean, if I heard that, I'll be like interested and just follow.
Yeah, I may as well follow and see.
God,
What do you-
so tired.
I
Well, it's all
What are you talking
Delphine.
about?
Well, it'll just be a quick check. And then we can go rest.
I did want some of the ivory.
I just want to see what could have possibly fucked up the big fucker.
The group goes back down the stairs.
We're gonna have more time.
Oh, no, you guys have plenty of time. I just thought you'd do it a different day. Or the next day, but that's fine. You go back there. It is now becoming night and starting to become difficult to see. You guys will have to light torches in your
I
search.
will cast light.
No, I'll cast
my-
light.
All three of you cast light.
I don't think I have it prepared.
The two of you cast light as Ulazal attempts to cast light, but like an idiot doesn't because of his exhaustion. He's like, "Oh yeah, I can't do that." And Delphina's like, "Whoa, lame."
Lame.
And so he has a torch. As you guys all approach the area, that area's like, "I'm certain it's over here."
I'll go to the area where I saw the knoll.
Okay,
Because I know that's gonna be nearby.
Cast
Every-
detect magic.
Ooh. He's a cheater. I see. I see you.
All right. All right. Could you read it to me so I don't screw up describing how you find it?
For the duration, you sense the presence of magic within 30 feet of you. If you sense magic in this way, you can use your action to see a faint aura around any visible creature or object in the area that bears magic. Range is 30 feet. Concentration up to 10 minutes.
Okay. Give me an investigation check with that.
I
At
can
first,
do that.
you're not seeing it because of the
I
range.
rolled a whopping 8.
It's, all right. Everybody else, give me investigation checks.
I'm gonna help
Oh,
Moz
shoot.
Okay.
Help me.
to give him advantage.
God. My investigation's +0.
That's 20.
Who?
Maybe you should help someone else, Harry.
No, this is Moznell's goal.
19.
Okay.
Shit.
Yes.
Okay. What about everybody else? So you're all helping, or are you just holding torches in light?
I'm just holding torches.
Okay.
Natural 1 for a 6.
Hey. The people with high investigation
yeah.
modifiers.
You're just holding the light, and as you are seeing them go through all these disgusting bodies, you're like, I'm not looking through that. That is horrifyingly disgusting. Some of the stuff you're seeing, like jaws that are just dislocated, and just the gore as Moznell picks up like a gnoll missing its jaw. You're like, I'm used to gore. It doesn't bother me, but I don't want to touch it. That's why I raised them from the dead, so I don't have to touch it. Just sort of puts it away. You keep searching, and it's you find the gnolls, you're finding drow soldiers, you're pushing them aside and putting them in their own area.
No.
Some of the other drow soldiers are starting to approach your group, trying to see what you're going on and making sure you're not grave diggers or anybody trying to steal from the dead. So you have a couple of horses that approach you with drow soldiers.
Wave them down.
All right, they come up. Is everything all right?
It seems during the course.
There was a Goliath. My friend here fought him in single combat, and felled him, and I think it's worth that he at least gets to get spoils from that specific entity.
You see the drow sort of like as they're surveying the field and be like, strange structure of priorities, but you're not hurting anybody. Sure. And as he sees in the background, you just see Mazo moving shit and digging. You're now getting into the tower, and you're like moving pieces of the charred tower around. Jesus Christ. Okay. Well, we'll leave you to it. We're just try and be done soon because more patrols will be coming around again, and they are going to be on high alert, looking for any movements, and they aren't going to be asking many questions tonight. And a lot of our men are very, very upset about what has happened. They click off and they start going back onto the field.
Guys, can we please hurry this up?
All right.
If we don't find anything soon, then I'm just gonna call it quits as I'm moving shit.
Okay. As you're walking around, as Moznell and him get inside the charred siege tower, you can see the faint outline buried deep, about 10 feet away from you. But down, you're getting a glowing from the ground that there's something down there.
Might be something of interest over here.
Let's check it out.
All right, with your 19, as you're moving bodies and bodies, you're getting into a lot of the people that were in the siege tower and the individuals around here. You're seeing more and more Ouroboros soldiers inside this area that seem to be around. And just as you believe you're seeing the Goliath's body, one of the bodies you're moving goes, ah! And stabs you on the side of your neck with a knife.
Oh, shit.
You take 15 points of slashing damage to your neck.
Okay.
As Maz now has a blade gouged into his throat.
I'm good.
Dagger to his face.
No!
So Ari, roll attack.
16.
16, that hits, definitely. Oh, you'll have advantage on this too.
Oh.
I have
he's prone.
advantage.
He's prone.
That is a 24 to hit.
Guess what? It still hits.
Hooray.
Do I get sneak attack?
He's engaged with Maz now.
Sweet.
Yeah.
But
So
Don't
he
you
is
get
going
sneak attack
hurt.
whenever you have advantage?
Yep.
There you are.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Easy clap.
That is gonna be a spicy
1.
27 damage. Piercing.
Your dark dagger goes out of your hand and through his head, and it just you can just see like half of brain bits on the ground next to it and a bunch of bodies. As Maznal right now is holding his throat, as there is a dagger still in his throat, as blood is trickling out.
I'll give a nice little,
Okay, you can. Yeah.
a nice little healing word there.
I think that would be a good idea.
I will.
Bellona is healing as she's helping Maznal take the dagger out of his throat, and at the same time healing.
I'm just like, it's alright, no worries. And then you heal for, I don't know, a whopping 6 damage.
Six.
Or 6 health.
6 health.
6
Got it.
health. It is
Alright.
health, not damage. It is good, it is not bad.
And Maznal's dead now. Thanks, Bellona. And I put a crossbow bolt in the back of his skull. Moving that body.
Did that have the Ouroboros on him too?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to. I wanted
Yes.
to make
Oh,
sure.
I didn't even look.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to make sure.
It's tough to see because they're charred, but it has that leather armor.
Okay.
You can clear. They're not Cobalt Knights. These are clearly very different.
Something else.
So as you find the white body of the Goliath underneath with tattoos of the Ouroboros all around him, you do in fact find a slightly charred at the bottom of this pit. Like it's now collapsed in the siege tower and all the fires burnt out into the ground. There's ashes everywhere. You've dug out a lot of bodies, and there is the Goliath, and his axe is underneath him.
Excellent. I'm going to take it.
All right.
Do I see the Goliath?
You do.
Yeah, same. Just want to look at him.
I would like to cast Animate Dead
All right.
It's not really the time.
on the Goliath and 3 Ouroboros soldiers as well.
Okay. You can do the Ouroboros soldiers, but I need a wisdom saving throw for the Goliath.
Oh shit.
Damn. He's OP.
Wisdom saving, that should be fine. Okay, 20.
20 for that.
You get raised from the dead instead.
I'll say, what are DCs again? I got to see how they're described.
15 is considered hard.
Yeah.
You know what else is hard? Diamonds.
You know?
Where is it?
It's true.
Feet, strength, dexterity.
Just looking at the axe right now.
Picking it up.
Looking.
Is that
It's I don't have it. It's different. It's a specially made weapon. I didn't finish the whole write up of it yet, but it is the Ouroboros blood axe.
Ouroboros blood axe.
Is it
I
glowing?
just clap my hand on his shoulder. You earned that. You very much earned that.
And I earned this.
You get the 3.
How exactly did you earn this?
Where the fuck is?
You
What are
see
all
all
of
those
these
dead
soldiers-
soldiers over there?
What are all of these soldiers going to think if there are just Ouroboros bodies walking around?
You're sounding kind of like a Debbie Downer.
He has a fair point.
They are dead.
I mean,
Zombies
it's
are
dark.
normal.
It's dark. How are they gonna know right off the bat? They might think we're enemies.
Okay. Can you at least
Just
send
draw
them
a
into the
symbol
woods or
on it
something?
or something.
I'm gonna say with the Goliath, because of the 20, he starts raising, but then the body turns to ash as you're doing it, and you give me an Arcana check. This isn't just like fuck you, Luke. Like
Should be good.
there's shit behind it. Just
28
you can tell a high
plus 9.
a high level spell was placed on this individual to make sure he couldn't be raised. This is
there,
magic that is intimidating. This is, and you can also tell with the 28, it's definitely from a wizard. You can tell
Is
it's a wizard
there,
with prowess.
Stuff that's left.
When you burn him, yeah, I'll give you. There's a satchel left behind, sure.
All right, I'll pick it up.
All right, give me an investigation check.
Yeah, that's really good. 24.
24.
2 natural 19s in a row.
I would say inside there, you find a charred journal. It seems like there are still some pages decipherable. Some rations. One gold piece.
Oh yeah.
Wow, I'm rich.
And large Goliath-sized gloves. Yeah, that'll be everything inside the pouch. On his belt,
gloves
there's a
look.
what's that?
Do these gloves look like special at all, or are they just?
You can try. I mean, you can make an investigation check as you turn over the gloves.
A natural 20.
They have the symbol of the Ouroboros. They seem like they're leather.
Are they glowing?
They are definitely not glowing.
Is there anything else glowing besides the X?
In this area,
That's fine.
I have to go through the the large amount of characters that were on this field.
Go to sleep.
We got what we came for. I think
You
it's time.
got what you came for.
That's fair.
And Ralia with 3 Ouroboros.
Can you please send them into the woods or something? I just want to sleep.
I'm gonna,
Just lay down. I'll come back.
As you see them, just go back on the ground.
I'm gonna put the axe in my back and be like,
Sure.
Just look at it was all like, is that better?
Yes, much. Thank you.
I don't know about
Tyr and the Raven Queen exchange glances.
Yep. And like
I don't know about you all, but I'm gonna go to sleep for
Yeah.
a long time.
Yup.
Yep.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I'm going.
Yep. Same.
Safe too soon. We all are.
All right, go ahead and take a long rest. You all go back
Yeet!
up there.
You all.
I have no spells left.
Yeah, literally none.
Zero.
What'd you say for that,
Zero
Reed?
spells.
Long rest.
Okay, cool.
Is anybody taking watch?
Fuck
No.
No,
Fuck no.
I don't
There
think
are
I can.
guards everywhere.
We're
They
too
can
tired to take
watch.
watch. We're too tired to take watch.
We.
A bold move.
I think.
Uh,
Are we? How many rooms are we taking up? Let's not be dicks about
Yeah.
this.
I was gonna say fit as many as we can into as little amount of rooms. as we
Two
can.
Dude,
rooms.
I'm down with the dude
Okay.
pile.
2 rooms.
The what now?
A dude pile.
All right, we'll do the ladies in one room and the dudes in another.
There we
Oh,
go.
that makes sense.
That
yeah.
works.
Split.
Well, there's 32
Easy.
of us.
Yeah.
do that.
There you go. The ladies go in their room, the men go in their room, and we continue gender stereotypes.
Yep.
Right
Just
on.
trying to make everybody comfortable.
Yeah,
That
you know.
makes us comfortable.
There it is.
I would say.
All right. So during the night, you all
Die.
get some sleep.
Yes. Thank God. I was hoping it wasn't death.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Airy,
Heck.
Dies.
your sleep is restless, and you see visions of troubles from the past, future, and questions that you wish to have answered, all in a blur that caused you to wake up in the middle of the night once or twice, but not enough to panic mode out of there, just uncomfortable sleep because of the Cobalt Wolves and everything that has gone down in these experiences. But as you find sleep, you're able to hold on to this happy memory of you and your brother taking one day in the past to go out by the creek back home in Jalasia and to skip rocks. And that just keeps replaying in your head over and over as a place of comfort and safety to get you to sleep tonight. Morning comes quick to all of you with a knock at the door around 7 a.m. in the morning.
Which room is this? The men or the women?
Both. You can hear both are getting knocked on.
Hello.
Your presence is requested by the king.
Very well. We'll be there shortly.
We'll stand out and won't escort you.
Am I still shirtless?
Yeah. You psychopath walked all the way out there shirtless and cut up, digging through bodies. You gotta get my loot. I need loot.
Alright, I'm gonna find something in the room to cover up a little bit.
Okay.
Is it what is there?
Inside this room, I'd say give me an investigation check.
Blanket.
18.
You're going through the room, you find plenty of outfits for 5'8" drow in here. About 3 or 4 shirts and pants, the whole deal, boots.
What about just sheets from the bed that I can kind of just wrap?
Most of the sheets have been stripped from most of the beds. They're just laned out feather beds and whatnot. Mattress equivalents in a world without mattresses.
Take your shit out of luck, buddy.
Maybe if I'm gonna try to put it on.
All right. Give me a...
Jesus.
Constitution check.
I'm trying not to rip it.
Yep.
Okay, not bad. Constitution
Yeah.
plus 3. Yeah. That's 18.
18.
Yeah.
As it gets on you, it is so tight, it looks ridiculous. And then with one, it rips. But
I think I got it, guys.
But it rips in a way on the back. Your shoulders rip it open, and it loosens up front.
Ooh.
But it's just wide open on the back now.
I think this is form fitting. It was hard to put on, but once I got it feels pretty good right now.
When I see him, I'll take my cloak off and just put it on his back, drape it on him.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
That happens
Really,
once
it's
you
like
guys
with the
come out.
boys.
No. It's when it's coming. So do you all exit your rooms and come out?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Brian's calling.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going.
As you guys come out, you're greeted by, again, those completely plate armored guards that look like Mandalorians, and they escort you down the stairs and past. They escort you down the stairs to this middle hub, and instead of going all the way down like you did last time, it comes back up, and now you're going towards the center where you guys originally were at the throne room and the palace and all that. And they take a left turn, and from that left turn, it goes into what looks to be a greenhouse of sorts. As you enter inside that greenhouse, you can see a makeshift tables have been erected out of the ground. There are chairs put all around. You see individuals standing there of drow and tiefling. You see a drow, tiefling, direwolves all on the sides of Brine right now. You can see them, 2 at her side, her big one at her back, and her sworn on the sides as she sits you can see this exhaustion in her body. But she sits at the head of this table it's decently long, the table itself. Let me move this a little bit. The way it goes, probably about a 12-foot table long with chairs lined up. You can see the general from before with the sickle. He's flanking from, if she's facing this way, her right side as he's pointing down onto what looks to be a parchment of paper on there. And there is a variety of other drow soldiers inside there, some clerics. You can see some other individuals. It's an assorted room with a few races mixed in as she is awake, alert, and trying to sort through things. As she sees you all, there's this faint smile on her face, and she's like, I'm sorry to wake you so early, but I believe we need your help again. Do you guys come in, take seats?
Yeah.
All right.
I'll stand.
Yeah.
All right. As you guys hover to one side, like when you're coming in, you go to your right side, so you're not near the commander where he's hovering. You sit down and you can see maps laid out of a tool, and you can see borders, and you can see colors and where the current fronts are. And there's all sorts of little men and people all about. The others take their seats as you were here. It seems like they were all waiting for you all to show up. And as that happens, Brian begins to speak. Thank you all for coming here so early in the morning. Your dedication is admirable. I called you all here once again to ask for help. Help for how we rebuild and move forward. Because luck was on our side, but luck runs out. I cannot thank you, group, enough for saving us. You came at a time that was most needed, and I appreciate that sincerely. But there are many other tasks to do, and if you have as much time as you want, and you have no commitment, as all of you don't. You all choose to be here, and if you choose to be here, then I have things that need to be accomplished that can hopefully turn this tide of this shadow that drapes our world. I am exhausted. I have not done what I have done in quite some time. The last time I attempted something like this, it took me many months to recover. We do not have many months for me to recover. So, I would like to hear what everyone has to say and what everyone thinks how we should move forward. She turns to that general next to her. General Colora, could you explain to us the situation? Certainly. As he looks at everyone else taking in the room, he backs off and he puts his hand on the hilt of the sickle at his side. He's in similar Mandalorian type of silver and green armor, but his helmet is off and held in his other arm right now. Since yesterday, the Cobalt forces finally made their last attack on Nature's Hold. We were preventing the siege as best we could, but the Valkyrie broke through our defenses and started tearing through our forces, allowing them to infiltrate the castle. We were able to mop up the bodies much after what we all know when our counteroffensive that stopped the Kobolds from taking over, mainly in part to the monster that we housed here for so long being released. He basically sent them into oblivion. And as luck would have it, our forces were only marginally harmed, though hundreds were killed in the crossfire, but thousands were killed for the kobolds. We spent all night trying to secure the walls as best we could, but we are going to need, as any druids, any stones and mason work, craftsmen, to try and rebuild those walls as best we can, because that is an open invitation for attack. We have secured our perimeters and mopped up a couple of assassination attempts that were made in haste by our good friends, the Ouroboros. They will not get through. He would never say that, actually. Back up. By the Ouroboros. That's more Brian line. Sorry. It's all melding together. Our forces are dwindling. Our numbers are only looking maybe 1,000, and most are exhausted of what we have left of our forces. Many of them are either stuck in other areas, captured, or dire need of resources. The stone giants, the traitorous stone giants, as a tiefling across the table. Traitors. as he lifts his finger, have returned to their home. So we have no idea if they will strike back again or what we have to deal with when it comes to their current stance on the war and the sides. We found the Valkyrie's body, and we are unable to move it. It seems some divine force prevents us from doing anything with the individual at this time. It's not a loss, a complete loss, but our people have been injured. We have had our mages contact the Frostborn in the north, and they have our civilians safe and sound. Everyone seems to be hanging in there and is looking to return. I await for your command, King, to decide whether or not we recall them to help with the war effort. Brian... No, we cannot risk and endanger their lives at this time. It's not fortified. As badly as we need every hand right now, we can't defend them. We can't feed them. We don't have the means. It's not the will. He nods. You can see this somberness to Brian. You say only 1,000 survive, Gloria. Have you done a head count of our banners? Who remains? You see him just... I don't think the time is now. You have to tell me. From our head counts, from what's going on, he takes out a list out of his pocket. Of the northern houses, House Veal is no more. You can see some of the people at the table just sort of taken back, and some unmoving, not revealing any emotions or leanings one way or the other. Some just a little hurt by that. The western houses. The House of Hills is no more. The House of Frost is no more. The House of Clouds is no more. And as you know, the House of Stone is traitorous. Of the eastern houses, House Bernier is still under siege. House Amber Axe is waiting for our help. House Dawnstone, Dasho, Dugrun, Shea, Ivanare, and Spino are all lost. Of the southern houses, Nirin, Othaya, High Spirit, Fistfall, Soon, Sundrial Elves of the Moonweave, the Menagerie Elves of the Forest, and House Naren are all no more. Of the 34 great major houses, we lost 19, and one has turned traitors. Just, you hear it's so quiet in there, you just hear the crinkling of everything being folded and rolled up. Brian takes each and every one of those with just a blow to her very being. Thank you. As she looks from one to the others on the table, the tiefling speaks up. Well, the dead are the dead, and we will mourn them. But the best way to mourn the dead is to kill the living who sent them to an early grave. There is much we can do. There is much we should do. I have some of my forces still here. Our house is a proud one. Where am I apologize. House Oryx stands by you, King. We have enough men to try many different tasks. But there is so much there. What would you have your will? She looks to everybody. This is how I see it. There is a multitude of objectives we can accomplish. We can decide who wants to do what, discuss it, and sit on it for many days. This is so quick. I want everyone to mill over the opportunities here, but we cannot dwindle too long, because the Cobalt Wolves will strike back. They will try and get us while we're weak. We can take solace, but they wasted 1/3 of their army here trying to take Nature's Hold. So they are much weaker than what we dealt with. We need to repair and fortify the city. That is our local most important objective. So we have a place to sleep with the worry of assassins or a strike force. We could seek to punish the giants. I am not a benevolent ruler. I'm not a revenge, bloodlust-seeking ruler. Death only begets death. But so much death has happened that we have to at least defend ourselves. The stone giants are an unknown, and that's not the best news, but I'm not sure it's the most pressing of matters, despite them being traitors. You can see some of the other houses at the table just at the mention of the stone giants, veins in their necks are bulging. I think one of the more important objectives is to free our dwarven allies to the east, and to the northeast, stop the blockade on our good friend Captain Lex. His fleet could not aid us, and he has been calling for our help for quite some time. He yearns for battle, and we need to sink the Cobalt Alliance ships. There are many fortresses and towns we need to liberate, but we do not have the forces to go one by one. We can do a strategy of sorts. City hopping, hold hopping, to try and take back what is most important. And some of those might be the places where our allies are held closest. If we want the help of some of the stronger forces, we will have to free Clockwork. Captured and hidden inside Lian Zhao. You can hear people just the mention of Lian Zhao, just the energy drained from their body. We must strike against that fortress at some point. It is detrimental to the Cobalt Alliance and the forces that they've taken from us. We could also try to damage their supply routes. That way, we start starving them out, their armies. If they're weak, numbers don't matter. If they're cold and starving, winter is right around the corner. And we could always look to gain new allies. I could not gain the trust of our most important house. Arguably, so as one of the dwarfs there puts his hand up, arguably one of the most important. Yes. But as fate would have it, this group, as she sort of turns her head, you see the dwarf. Yes, this group. What do we call these individuals that came from nowhere to save the North? You must have some sort of origins or name.
What would you call us?
You see the dwarf laugh. Killers is what I would call you. Each and one of you, great killers. You see the tiefling just like...
If you don't mind me inquiring, Do you happen to know the fate of Phandalin?
Phandalin. They look to one another. If it wasn't tilted, that was going to be a natural 20. Well, it's not.
It's
natural.
still a natural 20.
It's
Wow,
not.
look at that.
It's not natural 20. Nah! Snake eyes. Oh! 11. That's Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before
Yep,
Christmas.
yep, yep.
Okay.
Oh, I know what that is.
Phandland. You see the dwarf look over. What about the great city of Phandland? As spittle is going down his neck just at the mention of it.
City.
Yes, they have a fortress, as a couple of the other ones are. Around the table, a drow. It's quite amazing what they were able to do in such little time. They were able to try and bunker up as the Cobalt Alliance prayed through Freya. We haven't heard much from them, but we get angry owls every now and then, giving us updates. They are one of the southern houses that have a sympathy for our cause. They always seem to have some favoritism with the north for some reason we don't understand. They said they had many influential people come through their towns. And there is one very outspoken devotee of Timora that seems to have a great interest in all of us.
Woo!
Well,
Sounds kind of familiar.
I can't remember if I asked everybody about that or not.
You didn't.
I only asked about the Orlith nonsense.
Okay, guys, okay, so you're not following, you probably got lost in that. So anyway, well, I ask of you, it must be no coincidence that the spirit of the forest sent you to me and aided us and then helped win the battle. Turn the tides of history. I reached out to the House of Storms, and they did not heed my call, for I could not find them. They are in the west, and to me it makes sense if you have enough time to recover to travel out west to seek out the storm giants. We need their aid. Damn it, right. They are legendary. They're awesome. And they appear in the most inconvenient, mysterious of times. Maybe this is one mystery we need unfolded. But I leave it free to all of you for what task you want to accomplish in these upcoming weeks. There is much we must do, and this is the path set forward for potentially driving the Cobalt forces back. They are intelligent. They have resources. They have people. We do not. We need allies. We need every bet we can get. And I think these are our best chances to seek out our friends, to seek out new allies, and try to reinforce our positions. As you glance toward the map, you can see the borders right now. The north, it buries deep into, let's see, where are you?
Jinzhou.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, God.
Crikey.
Hey, there's an island over there. Let's go over there. I haven't been to an island yet.
So you think? All right.
Well, except for the
Isn't-
one shot.
Isn't the concept
There you go.
technically just one giant island?
What's that?
You're not.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say that, but I decided not to.
The forces have, I'll just do it from here so I can see it, not that way, pushed up. They haven't got into the Grasping Mountains, but they're all along the sides, near Lost Water, through the Wildwood, and pushed up into the Breadbasket, past the Brine Meadows, and they go up far higher, up the coast, all the way up to Yin Yang. So it's like all the way wrapping around the Everwood. There's a horrible flank on them right now.
So they came up from like the east side.
They push really hard up the east, and they have most of the borders coming north. They all came from, it looks like there was a push like a swipe almost type of motion from the south. You can see Neverwinter and Tendorf. The whole place is just cobalt blue, the entire map. All the way down Freya is completely cobalt blue, and that bleeds into Minna, which is Ivory Tusk Red, all the way down to the Ivory Wall. And there's this markings on that map of this wall that cuts Minna in half, and beyond that is just no color from that side. Whitland has been all a mix. It's a purple, a mix between the blue and red, indicating the invasion of both of those groups into Whitland, and they have pushed all the way to the outskirts of Waterdeep. So they are pushing into that area.
Not a bar.
Skolberheim is green and untouched. Nobody has been able to get into the borders of Skolberheim.
That doesn't surprise me.
Nobody wants to.
Nobody wants it.
There's nothing there.
So you think. The north above, you still have the Silver of the North pushed all the way to the very tippy tops, and you can see that area is still free, with the majority of northern houses free, but just covered in snow. You can tell that there is just a geographical barrier that is preventing them from actually piercing into the north and coming down. So that's an overview of the map. Do you have any questions? What do you feel about these propositions?
How big is Captain Lax, you said?
Yes.
How big is his fleet?
Right now, his fleet has suffered damage. At least 5 of his ships have been sunk, and about 3 sit in his harbor still, and they've been stuck inside Yin Yang, his castle, his kingdom, whatever he likes to call it. And they're trying to build more, but they're at a standstill, because the Kobold wolves have positioned, from last we heard as she looks to the commander, 10, he gives a nod, at least 10 ships have been starving them out. And he is very prideful. He will not retreat.
If we were to release him, how much force we have available?
She looks back over to her commanding officer. Based on the numbers Captain Lax was giving to us, he may have in reserve at this point a few thousand soldiers that would be of great use to us. But most of those would be including civilians. He has mobilized his entire kingdom, city, whatever he likes to call it. You see, every time, like that is a phrase that just keeps getting repeated over and over again.
Because my thought is that it's not just an advantage of numbers, but an advantage of having the seas on our side. And as they've carved this gap into the north, if we were to take the sea, if we were to reclaim the seas, we could fight them on 2 fronts. In each area we take back.
That would be a decent suggestion. My only concern is a 2-front war. We don't have the supplies or men to try and fight through right now.
We could
Rallying them back is a possibility, but also defeating the Cobalt fleet is extremely alluring. Having free seeds can help move resources quicker and even push us and scare them on their coast. If they don't have a fleet, we can walk into Tendorf.
Yeah.
But they also have plenty of security measures for that. You see the dwarf just like, if we can walk right into them, we burn all the fleets then. I'll take my men and we'll, you see the tiefling, you'll fly? How would you guess you'll get in there? Huh? you're not quite the quickest on your feet. You can't really go vast distances at any speed, let alone at the speed you would need. Don't dwarfs dislike water and boats and ships? Don't you love your little mines that you were made out of? There's fights to be had on them. Dwarves don't give a shit where they are. At this, inside, an exhausted-looking individual that is gargantuan in size, about 7'5", is coming into the room, and you see another Goliath walk inside here, and you see just all sorts of scarring and stuff on him. And apologies for being late. I just got up from the infirmary. He sits down on one of the chairs. Oh, my goodness. I appreciate you coming. It's wonderful to see you here. Get his name.
It's Tim.
It's not Tim.
Fuck.
Tim left, didn't he?
Yes.
He did.
It's Tim's
Yes,
brother,
he did.
Jimmy.
Jimmy! Jimmy's.
Amazing. That's their last name is Azing.
There you go.
Naval domination. Let's go.
Thevrin, it's good to see you. You see him as he sits down. What's the situation? And they're all looking at him like... as he just explained everything.
Just went through this.
We'll catch you up right now. He's just... How are my men? Are they alright? I'm not sure now's the time to discuss all this, as he looks up. You can be real with me. You know. So many names. Cora, we always had an agreement to be honest with one another. There are survivors, but your house, Otheria, oh my god, what is that? Thelia is no more. You see him just... Well, they died with glory and honor. As he nods, what else are you guys doing? We're getting towards the end here, so you gotta ask any questions you want for your plans. You were talking about the battle plans.
Which of these plans is the most pressing?
We're trying to figure that out.
Yes.
On the map that we will take to get to the fleet, are there any other objectives?
My
that we can
my
accomplish?
thought is we prioritize doing God, I'm blanking out.
Captain Lax?
Captain Lax, because having the advantage of the seas is huge.
Are there any trade routes or raiding that we could do on our way to Captain Lax? I think in conjunction, if we raid their supplies and perhaps bring some to him on our way to him, that could be most fruitful.
From here... Jeez, General, you can see, like, just the exhaustion hitting her. She's sort of losing. Her words are starting to slur. As he points out, yes, up the coast is mainly dominated by the Kobold Alliance right now. Jingzhou is probably their foothold on the coast. Above that is Hanzhou. That is one of our mining facilities. From there, it's directly northeast of it is Yin So that could be some place that would help push back the Kobold Alliance off the King's Coast a little bit. But it wouldn't be easy. The positions are fortified as Yin is surrounded at this point. Nobody in, nobody out. The dwarfs at Guing at the far east, They're just looking for resources right now to try and get to push out. Where would the storm giants be? King, my king. As she looks up again, she on the map. She starts knocking some of the stuff over. Oh, I'm sorry. They are reported by the Giant's Edge. Mishun's heads and Mishun's feet are the last known spottings of the storm giants. By the border is Lanzhou. That is far too dangerous to attempt right now. We have to regroup, but it is essential because we will get air superiority if we can free our friends inside Lanzhou.
Seems like our best course of action is to head east then. To free the coast. Disrupt supply lines along the way.
If we are able to free the fleet of this Captain Lax, what would be the next step that our band should be headed towards?
They look to one another. The tiefling stands up. We will march on Ging. The dwarf looks. I should revisit my cousins. We will march with you. We will push out and distract the Cobalt Alliance for you to go up north to Yin Yang to try and free Captain Lax's fleet. If we return, we will definitely need his fleet to bail us out of the fight down south. So be timely. Once you free him, commander takes over, or the general takes over, then I think it would be best for you to try and contact the storm giants.
Okay.
At that point, we will have been fortifying the Everwood and Nature's Hold to the best of our abilities, and then we will try and reinforce our soldiers as best we can here to make sure we don't lose any more ground. I'm not comfortable sending your men cutting across the Cobalt Alliance because you can get pinched at any point through there. The Goliath puts his hand up. They're not present, but I know my cousin house, Neorin, what's left of them, will bring them together and we will march in honor of our once great houses. And we will march with them. That should be enough. We should have a few hundred to push through, approaching. Force of... What do you have? About 400, tiefling. About 300. Maybe we can piece together 200 on our front. That's enough to distract them. Lax comes through with his fleet and his soldiers. That'll be a few thousand, and we'll be able to upset. They're spread thin. They're taking our land. They're burning our fields and pillaging our people. They don't have enough. And if that spirit you talk so much of is on our side, well, maybe it'll aid us in some way. It doesn't quite work like that. Never does it?
All right, then. So we'll go free the fleet and bring them down to help out the battle. And then once that's through, our group will go seek an audience with the storm giants and see what they have to say.
They exchange glances. The tiefling. The timetable seems close. We need allies quick. He has these long nails he's pointing on the table. As soon as you free Captain Lax and you feel comfortable, I would suggest go seek out these storm giants. They alone could change the very terrain we stand on. That would be enough for us to start striking fear into these godless men.
Well, what if they're that much of a game changer? What if we take the storm giants first, use them to free the dwarves while we go towards Captain Lax afterward?
Brian looks. if you find them. I tried, and I don't know how the spirits respond. It would make sense to me in the great world of things, but if you cannot find them or they will not listen to you, then once again we have our armies being split up, sent across, and I don't want people to die. So these are risks we have to measure, which place we want to go. And at one time, if I was just, as she tries to stand a little bit, and her sworn like, no. As soon as my strength returns to me, I could easily aid and lead people to make it. And they're like, yeah, okay, and they're all just, hey, getting ahead of yourself. You're fine.
Okay. That is a good point.
And there are also, as she pulls notes, there are sympathizers in the south, as there's some notes across the table. There are people begging for aid as well, things even before the collapse. I have not heard from one of my dearest friends. He did research for me in Waterdeep. I have not heard from him in years. He's shown me many of individuals that allowed us the cry for help, dwarven cities, orc raids, all these other places, even the city of Waterdeep cries for help. We need allies. As she turns, though, to one of the tieflings who looks, what of Skoberheim? Silent, as they both are just looking at each other. Just this nod of,
So fucked.
Was all not saying a word.
If we can rally them as well, that would be a better way of them starting this multiple front war you suggested with their resources. If there's any way to communicate with them, that's another option on our table. Captain Lax would be a direct route down to the southern cities. We could try convincing the lands of Witlin, those who revolt against Minna, and someone brave enough can try Skoberheim. As everyone looks at the table, nope, not interested. Do you have any favor with any of these individuals?
I mean, the three of us, we have a history with Vandalin.
Vandalin?
Yes.
They are in the heart. It seems that only magic and the will of Timora, as you see the dwarf like, Timora does weakling. It seems to keep them astoke. Their mythical forge has caused many eyes of people. Some process seems to have terraformed the land around them, changing it for a better. They're holding out but surrounded. Not deemed a threat, but stuck in isolation. Any communication with them would be interesting, but they do not have armies. I'm not sure if the magic of their forge or something, or something or other, would be able to aid us.
I know one person, but it's a very, very long shot, and not in any way related to anyone on this continent, unfortunately.
Friends from across the sea would be most valuable.
See what I can do.
It is appreciated. So what is our plan of attack? We do not have to decide immediately, but I think we should have at least an idea, and then we'll give a day to sleep on it, and then we will move out once everyone is rested enough for each of their objectives.
I think
I think
for our crew, the priority should be the Storm Giants and Captain Lax, whichever one we deem to go to first.
I think
I don't agree. I think we're very small and very nimble, and we could easily provide a distraction or help with supplies and resources quickly, and then make a move on one of the larger objectives while they're in disarray.
If we get the Storm Giants on our side, that will be quite a large objective right there.
if we go with Bologna's idea, though, if our team hits supply routes and and pillages supplies for our army. We can use that to bolster bolster the main forces and strengthen the ability for them to see each other's city.
Assuming the armies can hold long enough for our actions to do anything.
The general's nodding to this. Excellent suggestions as well. And I'll remind you, though, every day we get stronger, so does the Cobalt Alliance. It's a strange numbers game we're playing right now, but we need those resources as well. But the Cobalt Wolves, they have time on their side. The quicker they move, the more likely we are to die.
I think our group's strength right now lies in guerrilla tactics. Something I think a lot of us are familiar with. So, that's
What say you?
my 2 cents.
As he wraps up, what about the others in your group? What else do you say? Does your group? You are these mysterious figures. They need a name! as slams his head. As the group needs...
A name.
No. You can see him shaking up. Brian starts laughing. You will be what we move off of. You were a divine intervention if I've ever seen it. So you are dictating how we respond.
Is that some metagaming over there? I can't hear you over the sound
You
of
guys
us.
just talk as normal people.
Oh,
Just
okay.
talk and as your characters, just do it. Everyone who has an idea. This isn't supposed to be easy.
I said
There is
my-
no clear path.
I said my
This is
shit.
purposely. Yeah, you did. So like, I want everyone to
Yeah.
say their shit before we wrap up.
I think my vote. I think my vote goes with Mazna. I think we should try and locate. I think we with. I mean, with your tracking skills, Bologna, it may be more possible for us to track down the storm giants. I think Mosnell has at least a chance of influencing them and convincing them with his connection to the northern spirit and the spirit of the forest. I think we can use being a small enough group, I think we can make a quicker time to get to them, and if we get them on our side, that's a huge power boost to us, and we need large power boost in a short amount of time.
I
have allies in Waterdeep, I believe. And we only spoke to them for a short time, but those in the... I don't know how much of the Grey Hood that he would know, but we at least exchanged names.
Yeah,
I was
it was brief. You would know Salem, and you know Tamazing. Obviously, you got to know him really well. One of you has the black box. I don't remember who.
I think it's Airy.
Yeah. We still have the black box, right?
I believe I do.
I don't know how involved all they are in this, but a little help from their covert operations, I'm sure, would be much assisted.
Yes, I don't believe they were in Waterdeep currently, but
Remember, you guys went all the way across Yongguk.
yeah, I know.
Took
Like,
months.
we're not exactly sure where this group is at the time,
It's a lead we can't hurt.
I can reach them.
but we do have means of communication.
That's excellent.
I've never seen these giants, but
Mhm.
if I could get a description as detailed as possible, I could maybe use a spell or two up my sleeve to aid with the tracking.
From the few times I've met them, they are the essence of nature itself. They appear through clouds and lightning, and they are formed through the very clay of the earth. They stand buildings tall, and they are thin of body, but wise of mind. They typically have blue or white pale skin, brilliant purple shimmering eyes, and they see many futures, many worlds, and they see the shift of fate around us.
Would they have a reason to join us and aid us?
They are a part of our great houses and our alliance in the north. They act as more of a force of nature than an active participant. They would heed call if it's in their interest. If it's in the interest of the storm.
And think about it. If we have a storm barreling down on a harbor, what ship is going to be able to last?
Radia,
Yes.
what can you do with memories?
Many things. Do you have something in mind?
I do. Could you... King Brian,
Yes.
could we... You say you've met a storm giant before, yes?
On 2 occasions.
On 2 occasions. Radia, is it possible to maybe...
Hi, Julius.
I know, right? I don't know how that happened.
Easily.
Could you copy a memory and...
Well, I mean, I can copy it for myself, but I do not know if you can use it yourself. If that is what you mean.
Yes, that is what I mean.
I suppose tomorrow, if, well, tonight I suppose, I could place it in your dream.
That's so cool.
That might work.
What are we doing?
I'm just gonna approach King Brian and just like, think now, King. Think of the giant.
The sworn have their like swords and they're just like, she's like, it's worth the shots.
I'll cast Detect Thoughts. And just like absorb her mind.
Absorb her mind.
I will eat her
With a straw!
When you enter her mind,
Oh my god.
you find it well prepared for all sorts of magical prying. You feel all sorts of magical barriers set within her mind and forces. Some seem like elven magic, some other godly magic that you can't quite identify. What she's showing you is very guided, and you can tell she has exceptional control over the inner workings of her own being. What you see inside this memory is Brine on a coast. You see her on one of these bridges as clouds and a storm approaches. A typhoon of water gets closer and closer and finally appears as a giant peers down onto her. The two exchange a conversation as the storm giants ask her questions inside Giant. Do you know Giant?
Doubt it. No.
So yeah, then you don't make out the words back and forth, and you can feel some of the emotions as well of some nervousness inside Brine, this anxiety she's feeling as she's searching for something from the giants. By the end of the conversation, the giants place something inside her hand. As she turns it over, it's a purple opal. It's very large, and it retreats back into the storm as the clouds dissipate. When she turns and leaves this coastal area, you actually see it's this cave works. So like a whole cavern is behind her, but it opens up to this wide coast. And that's what you see.
Alright, I'll come out of it
Okay.
and I'll pull a strand out of my hair, or out of my head, and I'll tie that around my wrist.
Dope. All right.
It's like a snap.
Well,
Snap bracelet.
there's. And I suppose tonight you will have fun dreams.
Can't wait. Yeah.
It's been a long time since that's happened, and it's still not any creepier.
How like old was she in the memory?
She looks
Could I
exactly
tell?
the same as she does today.
She looks exactly the same. Okay.
So could be anywhere between 1 year ago and
Who knows?
Tough to tell.
Hard to read.
Natural 20. Tough to tell.
tough to tell.
So, recap. And she looks over to the general. So the plan is right now. This nameless group. The killers! It's easy!
I think that's something we'll sleep on as well.
He did. I don't remember it, to be honest.
That's hilarious. Poor guy.
He definitely had. I know he did suggest
He did.
a fellowship between all of you.
He did.
He did some fellowship or alliance. He had
Yeah,
some
we all,
fun
like-
name. And you were all like, yeah, sure, whatever, guys. He's like, what? Oh. This group will go to the Storm Giants, gain their aid to take to Captain Lax and his fleet up north, where we will hopefully free this fleet, who will aid in our march east to free and give the resources back to our house, our cousin house, as he looks over to the dwarf. We will hold out there for Captain Lax in the meantime to hopefully turn the tides of this war. With that, hopefully we will bolster our forces strong enough to start taking out their supply lines as we make our way to Lei Zhao to free those that are needed most. That is one of the best priorities, but we do not have the strength to take it. That is the stronghold, we believe, of the Ouroboros. They single-handedly were able to bring us to our knees on the inside. You must be careful with all these plans. Do not speak of them with anybody but us. Are we adjourned? As they look to everybody, everyone nods and they go, for peace. And like this weird thing where you're all definitely not in on it, at the same time they all go, for peace, as they raise their hands.
Delayed for peace.
All right, and that is where we'll end tonight's game.
Neat.
We will